go ahead and talk about the book that we are covering right now. It is Jackal by Erin E. Adams, and it is a horror book that Jameson chose. So thank you. What an interesting read. I have so many feelings. I want to dive in and get started and hear what everybody thinks. I know Danny is off camera right now. Is it okay to start with you, or would you rather me start down with Tara?
Can you give me just about 5 minutes? The dogs and I'm sitting, I have to get them out quickly.
Yes, of course. I'm glad I asked. So we will start with Tara if Tara is available. Sometimes you're on, sometimes you're off, so I just wanted to see. But I really I'm gonna do different
I'm
questions.
here.
Oh yay. Good evening, Brenna. I'm glad you're here. Hello. We literally just dove in. And we're just going over, I'm going to ask everybody a different question and also ask you your favorite quotes or any like poignant moments that stood out to you. If I remember correctly, you did it audibly, so you didn't have quotes.
Correct.
Yeah. So was there anything that really struck you that stood out or anything that you like jotted to memory?
Um, I finished it like 2 weeks ago
So it's not
and
fresh. I'm
it's
so
not
sorry.
fresh.
I
That's
totally get
okay.
it.
Um,
Um, I
yeah, I don't really remember. Like nothing stands out top of my head.
totally get it. You've probably read four books since then. So, my question for you is, so I won't start with that one because it's been a little while. Okay. When Liz decides to stay and involve herself instead of leaving town, how did you feel? Were you relieved, frustrated, afraid? Does that reaction mirror how you tend to respond to things like that? So, would you have felt obligated to stay, or would you have just gone back knowing it was kind of like a hopeless situation in that town?
I probably would have felt obligated to stay and help, honestly, because I want to help everybody. I want to like make sure everything's okay all the time. So I think I probably would have stayed to help, even like to my own detriment.
Yeah, me too. I was a little, I think it was internal aggravation. So I was like, oh God, don't stay, this isn't going to go well. But I wouldn't have been able to leave either, especially if it was my best friend's child, like my godchild.
Yeah.
I'm the same way, but I was a little aggravated, like, oh, this isn't going to end well. But yeah, I totally agree completely. And I figured that would be your response because, I mean, by trade, you love helping people so much, you became a professional helper.
That's true.
Yeah. How about you, Stephanie? Did you have any favorite quotes or favorite moments?
Oh, one of my favorite quotes, well, actually, I have two quotes.
Good.
Um, so often we aren't ourselves, but what others make us to be.
Mm, yep.
And then, if there's one thing fear can do, it's make a beast out of a shadow. It turns us all into monsters.
Oh, it's so true. So, so true. Those were two that I thought about picking. So my question for you, so we knew going into the book that it was going to be a horror book. That was the genre. But when you first realized the point of, oh no, think bad stuff is about to happen, what was your first instinct? Like, basically, I think that point is when Caroline goes missing at the wedding. Would you have investigated, gone to be a support person for Mel, her best friend, withdrawn, warn others because you think this town is shit anyway? Or try to rationalize it away and be like, she's fine, she's okay. Like, what is your go-to when the point of impact happens?
I think I would have tried to be a support person for Mel, and then I might have tried to do a little investigation on my own. But even though I'd be scared of the forest, I would want my goddaughter to be okay.
Yeah, I think we both think in that very similarly, and I expected that of you. Your instinct is to go be there for your person, but inside, I don't think you would be able to fight like not being able to want to go see what actually happened, which makes like your core personality really special because most people either do one or the other. So I was curious what that would be for you. How about you, Udi? Good evening. Look at you loving all over these baby rats. You guys, listen, the rats are learning to paint, and I'm getting pictures, and we're doing fun things, and it is amazing. Um, did you have any favorite quotes or moments that were like, oh, this hit?
So, I didn't finish the book.
That's
I'm not
okay.
I'm not that far from it being over, but the thing that hit me the most is when the truth came out about why she left her husband or her fiance,
Yeah.
and that she didn't want to fight, and I felt that like deep in my soul because that was me.
Oh,
And at like the like, and then I like fought, and it's just like I don't want to die. So that hit me right in the feels there. And then now she's finding out that the girls are being taken for a reason.
yeah. Yes.
Uh,
I totally agree. That was one of the biggest moments for me that sat with me, that bothered me because it was like an undercurrent to what was really happening in the town, but that had happened to her. Um, okay. So my question for you is what do you protect first in a crisis like this? Yourself, others, the morale of the event, like peace, because it talks about how Liz often weighs safety against truth, and moments where speaking up could make things worse. So instead of like causing everybody's feathers to get ruffled and more harm may be coming, she kind of holds it all in. For you in a situation like that, are you the type of person that you're like, I don't care, this needs to be dealt with, we're getting it all out on the table, or are you one to kind of like stuff it and like let it out little bit by little bit like she did, like guard it?
um, I would definitely. Excuse you, get out of the bag. I have treats down here. That's how I'm bribing them to come out. She's the only one coming out. Hmm. I would have definitely ruffled some feathers,
Yeah.
especially when it comes to my goddaughter, because my best friend's pregnant right now, and that baby is going to be protected so much. And
Oh,
like, just listening to what happened, and like the fact that Mel freaking just came out and said that to her and blamed her for it, it like broke my heart.
I
But
know.
I totally go to worst case scenario too. I would be like that too. It
I
broke my heart.
I think the reason sometimes stuff like that happens is because when people are quiet and they don't stick up for themselves, they become an easy scapegoat to blame. Unfortunately, but I do get why she didn't because she didn't want to make anybody more upset and the situation was already bad. But I'm like you, I would have been like, hold the phone, we're about to break this wide open.
Yeah, I'm just like, dude, no dogs, no FBI, no nothing. Like, come on. Like, where is all hands on deck? Like, I get you're a small town,
Right.
but like, it doesn't matter what a child is missing.
Mhm. Apparently, many children have been missing, and
Yeah, not just one, but yeah, exactly. Many children. It's been over the past, I don't
hmm
know what, 15, 20 year deck, 20 deck, 20 deck.
yeah,
I can't spoke.
I I kept telling, like, I was talking to two of my friends about the book, and I'm like, I don't know why, but I'm irritated and I'm angry while I'm reading the book, and I'm frustrated and I'm having to put it down, and I think I'm just mad that nobody's doing what they're supposed to do the whole time, and so like I was very on the edge of my seat for like action, and it wasn't happening in the way that I
So
would
since I
want it.
didn't finish, if I guess who it is, will you tell me if I'm right?
Yes, of course.
Is it Doug and his wife?
um yes and no.
Okay, because I'm at the part where Chris saw the daughter or saw Caroline,
Yeah, you are
and
very on
I'm
track.
like, they lost their kid. I'm like, and then he just got fired. I'm like, something's fishy here.
Something's not quite,
And
yes.
soulless eyes, usually soulless eyes, I'm sorry, are blue eyes.
Look at you being like a plot predictor. Derek's missing it. She would love that. Nikki, how about you? Did you have any favorite quotes?
I did the audiobook, so listening to quotes was hard or trying to keep track of them. But I was super excited when it was revealed that it was actually like a jackal type creature because
Right.
I needed
That's what I
something
was,
paranormal. I needed something.
yeah, that's what I was telling Udi. Like she's half right. She's, but there is paranormal to it. But yeah, I can't quite figure out if that symbolism, I still haven't 100 wrapped my head around that concept yet. But tell me your feelings on it. So you really think it is that Jack is a jackal-like creature, and that is what the author really intended, or do you think?
That's, I mean, I don't know. That's what I'm hoping she's intended because
Mhm.
again, like it was one of those books where it sounded like it was too good to be true when it came to something paranormal,
Yeah.
but that's like the only thing that makes sense.
Hmm. I kept feeling like as I was reading, and I reread it 3 times, and I was like, I have to be missing something. I'm missing a bigger picture here. So I'm glad you brought it up because we're definitely going to talk about it. Um, so for you personally, when Liz returns to the woods herself, like, and she's had this horrible feeling about it. Everybody's warned about it. All these children have gone missing. So like they're saying don't go in the woods, but off she goes. What was your first instinct? So like for you, would you be like, absolutely, hell no, we're not doing this? I need to bring somebody along for support, but we are doing it, or I cannot help myself. I have to.
Well, in my situation, like I do have a goddaughter, but it's also slightly different because she was my stepdaughter first and I raised her. So she's closer to my own child than anybody else's normal goddaughter would be. So
Uh-huh.
like if it were her, I'd be in those woods right behind her. Like
You
there'd be no
have to.
question asked. I'd be gone.
Yeah. Despite feeling that way about my goddaughter and would literally feel like I would go to the ends of the earth for her, there is too much of a chicken little inside my head. I would have to drag somebody with me. Like, we got to have a search party. Like, I'm not going alone.
I
Because I'm
think the
afraid I
biggest
wouldn't
thing
come
is
out.
like I can understand that because not everybody is used to the woods. Like me, I grew up in the woods. I grew up around the woods. The woods are my comfort. But that's not the same for everybody.
That makes perfect sense. I'm a city girl. I don't really do woods. And so there's no way I'm going in alone. Most likely won't come out. So
I go hiking in them for fun. So
I love to do that, but also have to go with someone. That's interesting. I'm really curious. Moving on to Maggie. Did you have any favorite quotes or moments where it was like, oh wow.
Yeah, I was actually just trying to find it. Um, it's right at the end when Liz is talking about how so many have used my anger to try and silence me, to hurt me, to manipulate me, to try to kill me. I know it's because they are terrified of what I could accomplish if I used my anger for myself.
Mm,
Um, and I just thought that was really powerful. Um, and her struggle with what using her anger looks like. It doesn't look like giving in to the jackal, um,
right.
and destroying just to destroy and get that sense of revenge out of her. It looks like doing what feels right for her community and her family.
Which
Uh,
really says something about her fighting that inner pull to want to like because of the connection she had to the jackal. I thought that that was shocking at the end to see that happen. That's one of my favorite quotes too, because she certainly could have been pushed. There is a huge undercurrent to the book about the way that the world masks and reacts to racism. And in a lot of book clubs that I was reading, and I really wanted your take on it. just because you're so passionate about so many things and you advocate for so many people, um, the way that Liz handles that, it's not a like protesting out on the street, screaming type of defiance to it. It's more of a quiet one. How did that make you feel? Did you feel any kind of frustration that her voice wasn't loud enough to make a difference? Or do you feel like that can be just as impactful?
Well, I mean, I think that was part of her struggle in the book, right? Like, I mean, she talks about how her disconnectedness from other Black people and Black women in the community hid the violence that was kind of underlying what was going on in the community and hid the pattern from her for a really long time. Um,
Mhm.
I also thought it was interesting because I know some people were looking up the actual town. When we got to the part where they talk about the flood and whether or not the flood was actually a flood or if it was driving all the Black people out of town. Um, I had just read last year a book about sundown towns. And so I went and looked up the town to see if this was a sundown town, and it was. And that's
Yeah.
the history of the sundown town. And so I thought that was a really interesting like edge of the story, right?
Yes.
It's like paranormal and the idea that this paranormal thing was created by this mass spilling of blood and hatred originally, which like allowed him to awaken. um
Right.
Without that this wouldn't have happened, and that's what he was sustained on. And so I think that's part of the critique, right, of Liz
Mhm.
as the narrator, is that because she saw herself as not that kind of Black girl for so long, she was insulated from the pain of all of these other Black families.
Mhm.
Um,
Also, she thought in a way, thought her mom was kind of like uh, safe from it, but she wasn't. And she
well,
finds,
and that's right, because that's part of the commentary too, right? Because they were like financially well off. And
right,
this is something I mentioned in our last like book club that my partner, this reminded me a lot of like conversations I've had with my partner. He grew up in Powell, and was kind of more affluent, more of an affluent Black family in like an all-white community. And he very much struggled like between those two worlds of what it was like to like be able to relate to um Black counterparts in communities that were not as affluent as he was
hmm.
without succumbing to the white gaze or what that meant for him and finding his way through it.
From his perspective, do you get the feeling that he almost like struggles with like imposter syndrome sometimes, like because of that, juxtaposition between the life that he led and then like who he is?
I think as a young man he did.
Hmm.
I don't think he does now. I think now he's like rooted in enough of his own like history and identity.
Yeah,
Kind of the way Liz does, like by the end of the book. Like she has this
right,
like reconciliation of like who she is in the context of our community and everything. While she does have differences, the other things that she brings to the community, the way that she can use her different socioeconomic economic status to get cops to pay attention, right? Like to be able to use her privilege to do things that are meaningful for her community. Um,
right. Which I think is empowering to her. I think it
yeah,
was a pivoting point of like growth for her and it got rid of like a helplessness for her. I was so curious what your thoughts were about the way that she advocated, like behind the scenes, away from everyone out, like because of the way that you live your life, how that makes you feel when someone conducts themselves that way. Because for me, I felt like there's no way she's going to get through. There's no way she's going to make a difference, but she did. So, and you really brought in a lot of the symbolism that I was hoping that somebody would. So thank you so much. You dug a little deeper and I'm glad. Hi, Laura. Good evening. Um, did you have any favorite quotes or moments that stood out to you?
I actually do have two favorite quotes.
Yay.
I had to pause the audiobook and write them down and rewind to make sure I got them right.
Mm-hmm.
No, no, not right now.
Mm-hmm.
One was every friend after her has been measured against her,
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
which is with my best friend. Everybody kind of gets measured against her.
Hmm. She's an
And
awesome
then
person, so that's expected.
she is. And the other one was, hold on, the enemy of shadow isn't light, it's sight.
Mm, yeah. I finished the book right when I made the post today, and that quote kind of hit me like we probably need to put things in light to fix this. So that really hit me too. Um, for you, my question for you is, how comfortable are you being the one who speaks up? When Liz isn't believed or isn't fully heard, did you recognize a familiar feeling? And have you ever stopped explaining yourself because you knew it wouldn't matter?
So the speaking up to part depends on if I'm having to speak up for myself or for somebody else. If it's for myself, I don't do it. If it's for somebody else, I do.
Why is it that you don't do it for yourself?
I'm not a big fan of confrontation.
Hmm.
I'm a Libra. We're peacekeepers, balance.
I find that interesting considering I asked your opinion on my new job and wearing a mask, and your response was, why don't you say, what about me is omitting that I actually give a fuck what you think about what I do. Like, that's speaking
And
up for yourself.
it's true.
um, but if it's for someone else and you're protecting them, then you can't override that switch to come out swinging. But for yourself, it's kind of like I'm going to choose my battles.
Yes.
That's interesting. I
And
think,
most battles just aren't worth it.
mm, okay. I just disagree. I think they should be the same. But I understand the frustration and where you save your spoons for where they should go. Um,
Mhm.
and Karen, how about you? So you read, my question, where I wanted to start with you is because you are so well read, because you've read so many books. What was your thought as this book being classified as horror?
I actually didn't consider it a horror. I
I was wondering
considered
what
it
your yeah.
I
Mm-hmm.
considered it more thriller
Mm-hmm.
than horror.
Mm-hmm.
Um, for me, I didn't like the ending so much. I didn't like the
Supernatural.
supernatural. I think it just didn't fit. I didn't I think I could have dealt with supernatural, but I don't think how she took it
Uh-huh.
as it being some kind of god or wanting to be a god, that kind of thing. I thought it was just totally out of left field.
Did you feel it was anticlimactic? Like there what you
Yeah.
wanted I'm missing something. And I can't quite pinpoint what it is. There's a symbolism here. There's a message that's being conveyed, and Maggie sort of touched on it a little bit. And so as somebody who has read so many different books, I wanted to ask you, if I was like, okay, maybe this is some kind of psychological horror, symbolic horror. It's not my standard like Stephen King kind of horror,
Right.
and I find it really fascinating. I'm just wondering if it's above my comprehension of horror because I don't read this genre as often. So I really wanted to come to you and ask that. Also wanted to know, did you have any favorite quotes or moments prior to the ending that you also in all the book clubs that I've read, everybody loves the first like up until like the last three chapters was so spellbounded, but if they lose enthusiasm at the end. But and I think I may have too, but I'm still wondering what I missed. So anyway, what are your favorite quotes?
Um,
Or
I didn't write down any favorite quotes. I did like how the story was going. I really liked the themes about the racism and and how she interacted with, her white friends and stuff like that. I was heartbroken that her friend was trying to blame her for it. I mean, I understood that her friend was, traumatized, but why she would think that it was her friend's fault when it wasn't. And I liked the background story of her starting to realize that all these other people, all these other girls had disappeared.
Yes.
Um, and then realizing at the end when Carolyn started mentioning all the names that were even more names than what they knew, I thought that was interesting. Um, and I guess obviously realizing that, Liz realized that the Jackal or whatever you want to call him, um, was looking for her. Like,
Mm-hmm.
not, I mean, I guess to at that point, but, and
Mm-hmm.
I did think the Doug and Liz thing was a little strange. I was like, you know, I guess in some ways I didn't truly understand that part. Like, I didn't understand truly the connection between the Jackal and Doug and
Yes.
Liz and Doug's father.
I so mm, I had to like really search and read a couple blogs on it, but where Maggie was going with the flooding and the ideology of the town, and you go all the way back to Lucy, that original child, from, and I think it might be some type of symbolism, but that rage of like all these people being washed out and dying birthed this entity of evilness. And I don't know if that's literal or
Yeah.
if it's just the evilness that resides in that town. But I find it very interesting. I just wish I grasped it more. I'm frustrated with myself. This isn't normal for me. Um,
Right. And I know she's coming out with another book in 2000, I think 27.
oh, wow.
It is also, I don't know if it has a supernatural thing, but I didn't know this one was going to have a supernatural thing either. But it is supposed to be a horror thriller
Uh-huh.
book.
On to that.
So I'd like to give her, I mean, I did like the book overall.
Oh, well,
I
me
just didn't
too.
really like the ending that
Mhm.
much. I was like, but I would be willing to try her again.
Mentioning for all of you guys, I don't know if you guys are on like book talk, like if you're on TikTok and you look at any book, somehow you end up getting on book talk. Like every feed is book talk. Well, there's a couple of them that they'll have these different screens and they'll one will be like, okay, this is easy level horror, this is medium level, this is, difficult, this is like super difficult. The Silent Patient that you, Karen, and I, we both loved, right?
Mhm.
That was difficult, is what they're calling it, a complex thriller. This was above that.
Wow.
So I'm like, okay, maybe I'm just not versed enough. So now that we're moving on to Jameson, who is like the master of all horror, I'm so curious. I just want to start right off the bat. Your general thought on the book overall, like, was it what you expected? Are we on the right course here? Like, what are your thoughts?
I loved it.
Mhm.
Um, I I wish I hadn't. I, I knew what was happening. I like to be surprised, and I rarely am, and I don't know why. I knew that it was like every time she kept going to Doug, I'm like, bitch, stop telling him things. Stop it right now because I don't like him. Um, and I knew there was going to be a supernatural element in it because I knew what Jackal meant.
Yes.
I knew that, and I guess I like that in the aspect because I've read so much Stephen King. Like, I like the concept that this evil was only allowed to continue to exist
Hmm.
because someone helped it, someone made it stronger, someone fed it. So this evil or this racism, if you want to call it that, like that's the analogy that I drew.
Okay. That is,
Someone kept feeding this racism and someone kept feeding this monster because
yep.
that's who they were inside of themselves too.
I love books that do that. I love that where you have like a direct meaning, like, the supernatural, but also there's the possibility that this is like symbolic and you get to dissect it. I found it like Cicely had said, oh shit, I've gone too far. It's unput-a-downable. What have I done? Because I was so entranced with it, and I was so stuck in my own head trying to figure it out, but also the underlayer of it and the things that are happening right now with like ice and stuff, it just, I felt like anger building in me. I don't know if that would affect you in that way, Jameson, like, because I know how bad stuff like ice affects you as well. Um, and the ignorance, like I'm having a hard time dealing with the ice that's happening, but also the people that are having cognitive dissonance or just not caring. And this town is just the perfect example of that. And I don't know if it just hit at the wrong time, but I just found myself so frustrated with everybody other than Liz. So I was just curious for you, did it erupt emotion in you?
I mean, yeah, I think so. Like one of the quotes that I had, it said, looking at her, I realized the story of Farah is more exciting than the reality. Nothing in the woods made her go mad. The indifference of the world did that.
Yes, I have that quote too.
And and
Uh,
I think like that, I think I'm so used to reading about like Stephen Graham Jones is one of my favorites and he's an indigenous writer and like I'm so used to that. Like yes, it makes me angry, but it still makes me angry through the lens of a white person. Like we
yeah.
can say, "Well, were you mad at Liz because she didn't do XYZ?" Well, she's in a room full of people where she has to look around and see who has her back, and we don't
Mhm.
have to do that. I
Right.
mean, some of us do still a little bit, but you're if you're queer or you're whatever. But mostly as white people, we'd never have to walk into a room and look around and say, okay, if shit hits the fan, who's got my back? And Liz has to do that continually through every decision she makes and
Mhm. It really
everything
is
that she
eye-opening.
does. And it's so like I was frustrated at the fact that yes, people are still gonna behave this way, but I was not frustrated. I guess I wasn't as frustrated at Liz as
No, I was not
like
frustrated
I
with her.
understood why she was doing what she was doing.
Oh yeah, I was empathetic from the moment she was on the train talking about the wig.
Yeah.
Right then I felt an attachment to her and an empathy for her in the way that she behaved. And a sadness sort of by the ignorance that she had about her mom's own pain, and what she went through. But the rest of the town, including her best friend, just pissed me off. Um, and I think it's supposed to. I think it's supposed to awaken us to that emotion.
I
As
think
far,
oh, sorry.
oh no, please go ahead.
No, I think that's a good example of like your mother protecting you from things that like mothers protect you from things that they don't feel like you're adult enough to deal with right now.
Oh,
And then like white people meaning well, and I mean, I'm sure I've done it too. Like you mean well, like you're trying to do something that you think is well meaning and I don't know. I just like but the I had one other quote. It says, learning and naming and confronting what makes us afraid and uncomfortable, no matter how ugly, is key to understanding and ensuring that it never happens again. Sometimes anger comes with truths like this. And that's kind of what I thought. Like her mom kind of sheltered her from being angry that this stuff was going on and she didn't know.
yeah.
But
One
she
of the questions.
also
Go ahead. Also, what?
She also wasn't protecting her by protecting her
Yes,
because if you don't know something's happening, then you don't know.
you read my mind. Basically, it's one of the questions I have down on my list, but I really wanted to ask you because as somebody who has children, one of the things I thought about was, do you feel like you can cause your child more harm by trying to shelter them? Like, do you think you can go to it to an extreme to where it becomes a hindrance, not a help?
I do. I always try to give my kids a realistic view of the world without making them afraid.
Hmm.
Um, I mean, we like from so you always teach, especially AFAB humans, like don't let yourself be taken to another location. Well, that's not a thing that you can tell a 5-year-old because then they're gonna want. So like I just changed the way I spoke to them about it. Like, the way I speak to my kids now about what's going on in the world is different than the way I spoke to them when they were 5.
Hmm.
But when they were 5, they still knew, if somebody says, "Hey, come help me look for my puppy," that there's a correct answer for that. And without them knowing the details of what is going to happen if they leave with a stranger.
That's a really good way of looking at it. In my experience with my friends, I either find that some people either tell their kids everything or they shelter them to an extreme. But there obviously is a middle road for that, you know? Um, I I think that would be the best way to go. But I was curious how that works for you in your place. And in my personal opinion, the lack of communication in adulthood from Liz and her mother was a hindrance to Liz, unfortunately, in my opinion. Her having to find out so far ahead, like in the game, that the mom had been harassed. They could have had camaraderie and that before this, but granted, she didn't go home, you know. Just fascinating all the underlying themes here that evoke so much emotion. And it's a great book. It really is. And Stephanie had asked, she wanted to know how you came to the conclusion that it was supernatural before we knew that it was. Like, how did you know? No.
So I think it was the chapter, I think it was Feather,
Hmm.
which is where we stopped the first time. And we read that, and I was like, there's something happening. And then Jackal, like when I looked up what that really meant, like not just as an animal, but like what that word meant, it was a
Hmm.
pretty big clue. But then when people started talking to Liz about her eyes,
Yeah.
like and like, oh, and then like they just kept bringing up the fact that it had bitten her.
Hmm.
And I was like, there's something inside of her. There's something in her. And maybe I've just read too much Stephen King, but I like for there to be like a supernatural. I think that's what made it horror and not thriller, was the supernatural element. Like a
Yeah.
thriller for me is not a thriller is not supernatural, I guess in my head. It
No,
can
yeah.
be. I mean, it
Well,
can be, but that's where the horror element came in for me, was the supernatural.
Well, I think if you guys remember the first meeting that we had, I had suspected because I also as soon as I picked up the book, I looked up what jackal really meant, all the different connotations from it, and I posted it in the group. And then I thought initially that Liz somehow was a part of it. And when I found out the end, I'm like, I knew she was connected to this beast somehow. I was like, I hate J.K. Rowling, but you know how like when the mom protects Harry and like
Yeah.
part of Voldemort goes off in Harry, and like they're connected that way. Like at the end, I'm like, ooh, this somehow they were like intertwined and she could like feel part of what he felt and could feel what she. I think that's where the horror part came in for me too. It's such a serious subject matter, that I had a hard time connecting it at the end, but I love talking about it. Um, Gwen, for you, did you have any favorite? First, let's all commend Gwen. She hates scary movies. She won't even watch all of Practical Magic with me because the demon guy in it. This was her first horror book, so she did it and she loved it. So this is exciting, big stuff. Did it for Jameson, so that's awesome. But did you have any favorite quotes?
No, actually, I did lots of art projects while I listened to it. I did lots of little happy art projects. Uh,
The
it's
sunshine
been
and rainbows to balance
yes,
out the scary.
yes, exactly.
That's good. That's good. So for you, one of the really important questions that I wanted to ask you, because I know that as you as a person, Liz carries her fear quietly for much of the story.
Hmm.
We hear it loudly because we hear it from her point of view. But
Right.
overall, she keeps it inside. For you, when you experience fear, do you talk it out, research it, and prepare, like compartmentalize, like almost dissociate, push through, or like crumble? How do you?
Um, I kind of do a combo of compartmentalizing and push through. I just yeah, just kind of go with it.
In my experience, you tend to be very quiet about it, like her,
Mhm.
until the shit hits the fan and you're like marching off into the woods. And then it gets loud. I wanted to know from your own perspective when that happened, when they got to that scene and they're like all meeting up at our mom's, did it make you have any body reactions or fear, like a tightness in your chest or a hyper alertness or like, oh God, it's all about to happen? Or was it just going with it?
Well, I was just going with it. It didn't. I really enjoyed this book. I was kind of worried. This is the first horror book I've ever read. I was like, okay, I'm not gonna read it at night. I'm gonna make sure I read it early in the day and things like that. And like, but I absolutely was engaged. I enjoyed it. It didn't scare me at all. So and when they finally found the little girl, I was so happy. I was like cheering, yay! I knew you could do it. Um, but woods and stuff and things like that don't scare me. I grew up in the woods. I grew up playing in the woods. So those kind of things don't scare me. Animals like that don't scare me. Um, so yeah.
I was just curious because we didn't really talk about it much.
No.
And so, I mean, I think everybody knows for me, I'm going to research and prepare, and then I'm going to scream like Chicken Little that the sky is falling. And if we're going into the woods, I'm going to be like, we're all in deep shit. Everybody strap up. We got to go. Um,
Mhm.
but for you, I know it is more like Liz. So I was just curious what that felt like
Yeah.
for you because when they all got together, I was like, oh God, I'm starting to break out in hives. This is where it's going. Everybody's going to die out here. So, but I'm glad that it wasn't a visceral reaction
No.
for your first experience. So that's good.
No. Yeah.
Hi, Danny. Good evening. So we're pet sitting again. That's wonderful. Um,
Yeah,
how are you doing?
I'm good.
Good, good.
Going with the flow.
Did you have any favorite quotes or moments?
Yeah, there's a few really good quotes. I thoroughly enjoyed this book. I was surprised too. Um, I don't have my glasses on tonight, so bear with me. All right. So there's three quotes that stood out. Being a black girl is inhibiting a cruel riddle. Your beauty is denied but replicated. Your sexuality is controlled but desired. You take up too much space, but if you are too small, you are ripped apart. Then danger for black girls was different. It didn't obey the boundaries of stories. For them, it was always real. And I felt that because I grew up in a very racially charged neighborhood in Brooklyn
Hmm.
and with Sicilians, and we had a lot of unfortunate events in the early 80s and into early 90s with racism and Al Sharpton marching in our streets because Sicilian kids decided to kill a black kid. And anytime a black kid came into our neighborhood, you had these little stupid crews that would just target them horribly. So like I grew up really watching like so much racism and ignorance unfold. And I was really lucky that my mom broke that cycle because she didn't want me to be in that cycle. Like she
Wow.
didn't want me to not, say, no, you can't come home to my house because you're black. And a lot of people would do that. Like if there were sweet 16s and parties, they were strictly white. And if you invited black people, then people left.
Wow.
And I think that's probably why I had always dated to push the limits. Like my
Hmm.
first husband was Cuban, Puerto Rican, and Italian, but I made sure I got the dig in because I was determined to do that because I felt like racism is just so wrong on so many levels and it just infuriates me. So
I
that quote really affected me. It
yeah,
hit.
I can totally see why, and knowing your background, and that really is eye-opening to how you conduct yourself. Um, because for me, and I hope I don't you, you're not, are you a police officer?
So
You're
I
affiliated with the cops,
so
right?
I still I'm a 911 dispatcher training officer. And I work
That's okay.
for sheriff standards in North Carolina, and I teach cops to be cops and dispatchers to be dispatchers. So I do general instructing, and I retired full time from the sector, so I only do it part time. And now I work in disability services for North Carolina.
Wow. Okay, so that we have a very unusual dynamic with the police here in Columbus, Ohio, and it is unfortunately, in my experience, not a safe entity. And there's a lot of stigmatism around it, and a lot of us are very anti police involvement, only because it has caused so much harm to, you
Mhm.
know, racial profiling, homosexuality, like it ends up
Yep.
imploding. And I just wanted you to know, you're so different in the way that you approach it. Um,
Yeah.
and I hope that you would never take offense to some of us like, nobody call the cops, bro. Like, because we all have it ingrained in us that it's going to be innately and badly. Um,
I
but
live in
I
the
knew
South
something, yeah.
Mountains, and this is what do you call that? The boys club?
Mm-hmm.
Real Southern mentality, closed minded. They're racist. They're homophobic.
Mm-hmm.
They, if you're not a part of the good old boys club, you'll never fit in. And I've always been to New York, and they all made sure I knew that.
Oh,
So
wow.
they love me, but they hate me
Yeah. Yeah.
because
So
I don't take the bullshit. I just call it like it is.
yeah, I've even mentioned it to Gwen a couple times. Like, I know there's some type of like cop mentality because you're so protective and you're so ahead of the game when it comes to like danger. You're
Yeah.
always alerting me before I even know it. But I'm like, there's something different here and empathy that I'm not used to. So, I think
Yeah.
that's your
I
perspective
grew
on
up. You don't call the cops. You don't trust the cops. You don't tell them anything. If anything, the cops are as corrupt as my family was.
yeah, it is just it's just not a good time here when this is hard. Okay. So my question for you is um okay, how does the town's mantra of don't look reflect real world social avoidance of racial violence, female violence, LGBTQI plus violence. And for you, what Liz does that look like courage to you? Was that bravery in what she was facing?
Absolutely, because she's been hitting walls from the time she was born just due to her color and
Mm,
living in that town. And she was constantly ignored. and not heard.
Hmm.
Um, it infuriates me, the small town mindedness and how people judge and they don't know how to just accept people to be people. Um, the color is an issue for me, all of it, from sexuality choices to everything that we all truly struggle with, and we get put into these groups that we shouldn't be, and we get stigmatized. And then, we have to do what's supposed to be society norms, like that
Right.
were imposed upon us in, let's say, 1920. And no one has evolved or grown to understand that life is a little bit more different now. We have so much more driving us. And it definitely, in the story, it made me realize, like, it's still very prevalent in the book, but it's also prevalent in our real lives,
Yep.
especially with living in this middle of nowhere mountain town. Like, it's,
Yeah.
so like when they brought the drag shows into our town, I was like, oh my God, it's great. I'm back in New York City. I can go catch a show. No,
Right.
it does not work that way. Um, People were like protesting and picketing, and they wouldn't go to the establishment. And me, I'm like, we're going, dragging my 16-year-old kid out, going. I'm like, this is what it is. And
I
I always,
command that, especially in that type of place.
yes.
You know,
And
it,
Lena was targeted because Lena is, if you've seen pictures of her on my profile, she's a beautiful Sicilian, Cuban looking girl. She grew up with the tiny little waist, the big bubble butt, the boobs, and she was ethnic. You knew she was. And coming here brutalized her. My kid was targeted because she wasn't your stereotypical white girl.
mm-hmm.
Even I got targeted because I'm dark and tan and I'm just Mediterranean like complexion most of the time. So people would just target poor Lena, and then target me because I'm not your typical mom. I wear jeans with holes in them, Adidas, Jordans, whatever I feel like wearing. So
Right.
like I stood out because I didn't fit the look a mom should look. So she was targeted, I was targeted, and I'm like, well, fuck everyone. I'm gonna carry a gun and just fucking work for law enforcement. And
Oh,
that was where I went. But it's horrible
that's
here. It's not that
courageous
great.
in itself.
Yeah.
Like I mean, I think that you took something that could have been extremely challenging, hard, and you could have shrunk,
Mhm.
but you stood like your sacred ground and did what felt best for you. And
Yeah.
I think that's sort of like what ends up happening with Liz and says a lot about somebody's inner like courage to be who they are. So I think that's awesome. Good evening, Cicely. Hello, 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 hello. Um,
Hello.
just a tidbit. Thank you for being you. Um, just wanted to let everybody know you're an amazing helper and human. Probably wouldn't have made it through the day without you once again.
No.
Thank you. I won't get into it while we're on record, but I just wanted to appreciate you now. So anyway, did you have any favorite quote or moments that stood out to you?
I I didn't highlight any quotes. I really enjoyed this book. I finished it super early because I did, like I said, I was with that kid in the ER, and so we're waiting and waiting and waiting for like 157 friggin' years. And so I'm just reading, and it didn't even occur to me that I had gone too far until like an hour before we left. I was like, oh, I should check where I'm supposed to stop. I was like, oh, I have three chapters left.
Yes, I know. It
So
happened
I
to me
was
too.
like, whoa. So I'm like a little bit further away from it, but I really enjoyed this book. I used to read a lot of horror and I don't anymore. Um, just because I feel like Earth is scary
Mhm.
enough. But I do like it, so maybe I will venture back in. I read everything else.
I stand with you on this.
Mm.
And I will tell you, so does Laura Freeman. So she surrounds herself in like the Hallmark Channel and Disney movies and like happy things. And I'm like, oh no, no, everything I watch, everybody's already dead. And like I watch horror and I'm obsessed with my favorite serial killer and like all this stuff. And she's like, no, 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 no. Out there is already bad enough. We're gonna keep in here
Wait, but
happy.
I love the serial killer stuff,
Uh-huh.
but somehow that's not horror. I don't
It
know. The
just
true crime
doesn't.
stuff, I love that, and somehow that's not horror in my brain.
Hmm.
Vampires, werewolves, cool, not horror in my brain. That's like supernatural creature stories. That's different. That's like basically an animal book, right? So, um, if it has werewolves, it's an animal book, and that's okay. Um, I really liked it. I think in the beginning, I was kind of like I didn't like most of the characters I wanted to slap a little bit.
Oh yeah. No, the whole town. I'm
Um,
mad at the whole town. I want to
like
go to the whole town
but
and kick
like
everybody's ass.
everyone
Yeah.
wanted to slap everyone a little bit, and I wanted to take Liz aside and be like, "Girl, you don't need that fucking wig. Fuck those people. Slap them with the wig, right?"
Yeah. I
But
expressed that. I expressed that. I said, I don't know, the book's pissing me off. I'm angry. And I realized I was angry at the inaction of the people. I just didn't get it.
I thought it did a really good job of showing. I don't know if I'm gonna express this the right way, of showing how people think that they're good people,
Hmm.
truly believe themselves to be good people, and also hold horrible ideals without ever understanding that
Hmm.
or examining it. Like, I think a lot of people just live wholly unexamined lives, which is probably way more comfortable.
I have a question for you
Um,
about that. Can I pick your
yeah,
brain just for a moment, or anybody's that wants
sure.
to put it in the chat? I've been thinking about that a lot since we
Mm.
read this book. So thank you, Jameson, for bringing it up during this time. Do you think prior to like 2018, this wasn't as pervasive? I feel
No,
like people have become more numb or
no.
something.
I
Like,
think it's
like
always been like that.
really? Okay.
Yeah. But I think that what has happened, and this is just my personal uneducated opinion, I think that as we have more media connection to other people, so it's not just something you read, but you see a face. And
Hmm.
maybe that face is a face that you recognize as being like you. Or maybe the way that person speaks is something you recognize as being like you, that's giving you new ideas. Or bolstering old, evil, crappy ideas, right? It goes both ways.
Right.
I think that that has kind of shown a lot of light on things.
Hmm.
Like you see it even like with war correspondence, right? There was a lot of
Yeah.
stuff that came out in the Vietnam War that sparked a ton of protest. I'm not saying it wasn't bad, it was horrifying, but we were getting, and nothing even like we're getting now, but that like very close to, hey, this happened last week.
Yes.
Um as opposed to, hey, this happened in Germany a month ago, 6 months ago, a year ago, right? And people had this much more intense response. And now we're getting that, hey, this happened 10 minutes ago. Hey, this is on Facebook Live. This is happening right now. Um, and I think
Right.
it's kind of shining a lot more light on people's internal biases that they maybe haven't examined. I've seen some whack comments. I have made some. I'm not gonna lie. I've made some,
Hmm.
you know, like slapper with your wig comments on the internet. But I think it has changed. I think that's what's changed. I don't think people have changed. I think that our ability to see people react in real time has changed.
Yeah.
That makes
Yeah.
sense.
That does make
Like
sense.
they're
Um,
not. They don't have a month and a half to get their poop in a group before you see them at
right.
church.
And we're all able to interact immediately and comment and discuss in a way that we didn't have. Yeah, that's a
Mhm.
really good point of view.
But
Um,
And yeah, so people, when you have that immediate access, people
Yeah.
also don't tend to process it out first.
Right. Um,
And
it's a gut reaction. It's an
yeah, so
instant.
it's very illuminating. It's been an
Yeah.
illuminating time.
Uh-huh. It is. It is. My question for you is with and I or anybody really, because it's just the kind of the theme of the whole entire book. Why do you think Adams chose horror, this avenue, not realism to tell this story? Um, do you feel like it was more impactful this way, or do you feel like you're able to reach masses of people that you may not have been able to had you had put it as a real, like the book that Maggie mentioned about those sundown flood towns?
Mm.
Like I never even heard of that book. That would have never even been brought to my attention. So thank you. I'm going to look into it. But like, what do you think her intent by making it horror was?
Well, we write what we want to write.
Mm-hmm. No,
I
just
think
basic,
that's
like, yeah.
honestly, yeah, I think
Yeah.
maybe she had the idea about the jackal and was like, I built the rest of it around it.
Yeah. So not
Or
necessarily a message she wanted to convey like covertly, just the way she wanted to do it.
maybe, I don't know.
Mhm.
I feel like a lot of times when people are trying to like hammer home a message in a fiction story, it's super obvious.
Right. Yeah.
Like,
This
here,
wasn't though.
witness my bad guy. How bad is he? He's the worst. We hate him the
Right.
most.
Right. This wasn't like that though. This was
No.
much more complex and thought provoking. So I was just curious what you guys' theory is. Why did she make it like that?
But
Um,
like it was kind of a realism book
it was until the
with
very
a side dish of jackal god,
right, right, absolutely.
right? Like adding a small fry is the
Hmm.
jackal god.
Yeah. Yeah. Um, Brenna, good evening. I'm so glad you're here. I wanted to know, did you have any favorite quotes or any thing that stood out to you big time, like that hit you in the feels?
A lot. I love this book. As someone read a lot when I was younger and then took a break for a while, and really in the last couple of years have been kind of like getting really back into it. I I often don't try new stuff. You know what I mean? I just like read what I know. And so what I liked about this book is not something that I probably would have normally picked. And it was amazing. I really, really loved it.
I'm
Um,
so glad because everyone else that said they wouldn't have picked it loved it too. So that's really cool.
yeah, it was very cool. I liked that it was a mixture of like some genres, kind of like what we're talking about, like thriller, horror, like fantasy, but also like real, like very realistic too. You know what I mean? Like all tied together. It was so unique. So anyway, I
And
did like that. And I had
and
several quotes that I
yay,
liked.
yay, yay, yay. Hmm.
Um, hold on, I have to look. Oh, I lost my spot, of course. Hold on. I just had it. Okay, so one that I really liked a lot was shame grows in silence. And as somebody who works, in the mental health realm, that is something that I like preach all the time to, my clients. I think that it's something that I'm really passionate about myself too, like how often, like when we don't talk about it, it just continues to build.
Hmm.
Um, so I thought that was very well said, from her perspective as well.
Very well said. Agree.
And then another thing that stuck out to me a lot was over time, I've learned to suspect men who are kind without reason. No one operates from the goodness of their hearts. And it, yeah, I mean, that one was more like personally relatable, you know what I mean, than anything. It was like, dang, like that's how I am. I'm very, much more reserved now around around people, really specifically men though, because I just am not trusting. And so
Hmm.
it definitely hit home. That's for
Oh,
sure.
it definitely hit my little cold, bitter heart too. I was like,
Yeah.
bitch, yes, this is
Yeah.
right.
That's how I
I
felt
felt
too.
I felt it very much so.
Yes.
Um, and unfortunately, I hate that we both feel that way. It's not something that I would want anyone to have to feel, but it resonated with me too. And I appreciate your vulnerability and admitting it because sometimes I
Mhm.
stand alone in my pessimism, or my like mistrust of people in general. And
You
so
will never be alone in that if I'm here.
kind of a negative Nelly, and I'm always like, yeah, they're all bad. But my question for you is, how does the theme of the book, knowing but not being believed, resonate across identities of race, gender, sexuality, mental health? Have you ever not been believed? Like, have you ever said that? I know women in general, but
Hmm.
for you personally, has it ever been an instance where you've been like, this happened, and everyone's like, no, I don't believe you?
I see what you mean. Yeah. So often, several times, and ironically, mostly were around men, right? Doing or saying things, and then the script gets flipped, and trying to really advocate for yourself, and then people make you think you're crazy because you're like, well, I'm the only person who believes this, and so there were several times in the book where Liz was like you, because we were reading it from her perspective, you could like hear that internal battle, like, yes, I know like what my gut feeling is telling me, this is what's true, this is what's happening. And then it would be like, no, I don't know, maybe I'm just like reading into this too much, like, she would kind of go back and forth. And
Yeah.
so I feel like being, you know in relationships with like toxic men or like narcissistic men specifically, like that second guessing of like, okay, no, I know that I'm right, but also am I? You know what I mean?
Yeah, there's something that happens there, that internal dialogue of, are they crazy or am I, or have they drove me to the point of crazy?
Yes.
Oftentimes, it can even be an inner self-doubt, not necessarily an outward one. And I saw her struggle with that, and a lot of people do. And I think that most people that I've read, all the blogs and everything, that knowing but not being believed, it's like one of the worst feelings in the world for anyone to
Hmm.
experience. So it's validating to know that other people have gone through that. So I appreciate you sharing that you've
Absolutely.
experienced it. I also had one favorite quote this time, and it was from Liz's mom. And it is, the anger in this country is not like a Haiti, which she was from Haiti, I believe. Am I correct on that? And that was her little town there. I used to think it was gone or neutered, but it is here. It is a matter of who gets to be angry and who gets to seek vengeance or claim justice. The anger here is not the kind that starts revolutions. It is the kind that wages wars. And I feel that more now, right now, than I have in a long, long time. So I thought that was really important. So it is 9 o'clock, and I know everybody wants to know what book won. I do want to share a little caveat with y'all. It was very, very close between Marcy's book and Mary's book. Mary came to me at Christmas Eve. I don't know if you guys know, but she's my cousin. She's kind of like my sister, kind of like my daughter, half raised her. I don't know. It's very weird, the relationship we have. Anyway, and said she's in a little book club in Baltimore, Ohio, in a little backward town. And they did a book called The Ritual. And she had some serious, intense feelings about it. And that evoked her own sexuality in ways that she basically, hold on, we're doing the ritual. This is oh, there we go. That I voted for it because I think it's going to be such an amazing conversation. We're not going to go into the smut direction of it because it is smut. We're going to really dissect the shame that goes around smut, is how I want to address this. Because I'm real sick of everybody demonizing the kink. So I'm going to stop it. I'm going to stop recording real quick.